Hello and welcome back to the next video of this series. This is the fifth video in Python, well, in this series of Python. And today we're going to be learning about while loops, which are very important in Python. Basically, let me just give you like a quick and short overview on what while loops are. They're basically loops. So, like, while a condition is true, you're gonna keep on doing something. So while let's say while the time is right now is 12:02 for me. So while time is 12:02, keep printing the time is 12:02, the time is 12:02. But when it reaches 12:03, then the loop will stop. So during the time period when a condition is true, you're gonna keep on doing something. Now let's look more into that right now. Let's go into our agenda. And basically, here you go. I've written everything. Basically, we're gonna be learning about while loops, the break statement, and the continue statement. Don't worry, it's not gonna be too long. So while count is let's actually copy this over to our file that I made. First, we have to initialize a variable called count, and let's make it 0 right now. Its value is integer, right? So the variable is count, and yeah, see, its value is of the type int, which means integer. So, right, okay, sorry, okay, now let's put it there. Ooh. Make sure our indents are correct, and this is basically how it works. Let me actually give you an overview of its syntax, its syntax basically. How its structure is like this. It's like this. While expression, action. So while an expression is true, you keep doing some action. And like we studied in if you'd watched the last video, we discussed about if statements, and remember how if 9 is more than 7, it's the same thing as if true. So all conditions basically, all conditions can be categorized into true or false. Okay, so let's go. But this is a bit different than if statements. This is like a loop. So what we have here is we have a variable count, and its value is 0. While count is less than 10, count plus equals to 1. So then what Python does is when it notices it's a while loop, it's like, is count less than 10? Yes, it is. Then count plus equals to 1. Is count less than, now count is 1. Count less than 10? Yes. Count plus equals to 1. Now count is 2. Is count less than 10? Yes. Now count plus equals to 1. Now count is 3. It keeps on going until while count is less than 10, count plus equals to 1. And now let's say count is 10. Okay? Count just became from 9 to 10. Now count is no longer less than 10. It is 10. So now this loop will just break. It'll just stop. So let's actually, because if we run this, then it won't do anything. We're not making it print anything. Sure, it'll store some stuff. Sorry, I don't. Yeah, okay. So if we run, then nothing will happen because we're not printing anything. We're just storing something. But if we do print count, then it'll print every time. So it'll print 1, 2, 3, okay. Wait, let me just show you. That'll be. So it's gonna print. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's basically gonna count to 10. And why this happens is, like I told you, count is 0, right? So let's go through this. Okay, step by step. Count is 0. While count is less than 10, yes it is. So now, so while count is less than 10, It is. So we proceed on. So it's on to whatever's inside the while loop. So count plus equals to 1. Perfect. Now count is 1. Now when we print count, as you can see here, it's 1. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then as soon as it becomes 9, count plus equals to 1. Count is 10. And print count. It prints 10. Now count the variable count is 10. So this loop won't run anymore because count is not less than 10, right? So it'll eventually just break out of the loop and stop the program, stop the file running. So that's basically a simple, that's like a simple explanation of what while loops are, and yeah. So that's how we make it count to 10, which is pretty cool. For me, when I first learned this, it was really cool, fascinating, right? Okay, so now what I wanted to show you was the break statement. So let's go into this place. We still need the count. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm actually going to comment this. I think in a previous video I showed you that you can comment things, but if you haven't watched it, and basically placing a hashtag in front of any line just comments it, so Python will just ignore it. And why this is helpful is, let's say we want Python to ignore it, but later on we still want this code. So after, we can just remove all these hashtags, and all you have to do is remove a hashtag, right? Instead of having to delete the whole thing. Okay, so anyway, let's put that in. And as you can see, we have while true. But there's a mistake here from, like, I don't know why. So it had some sort of like an indentation error. So now there are 2 indents. As you can see, there are 2 indents. And Python doesn't like that. So I'm going to press Shift and Tab. There, that de-indents it in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so what we have here is while true. So now it's gonna keep asking. Remember we studied about input. So while true, prompt equals to input, say hello. So it's gonna keep asking us to say hello. Now, if we do say hello, like whatever we say, right? If it asks us say hello, now say hello, and whatever we input, whatever we type into this thing, that will be stored in the variable prompt. And if what we typed in was hello, then it would break. So it would keep asking us to say hello until we actually type in hello. So this is actually pretty cool. Let's see. Say hello. Oh, whoop. Let's just do that for convenience. Okay. So basically, let's run this. Okay, say hello. So we'll type in no. I said I don't want to say hello. Okay, whatever I say, it'll keep asking me to say hello. The loop keeps running again. But if I do say hello, it stops because it breaks. What the break statement does is it breaks the loop, like prematurely, before the loop is even supposed to end. And what while true here means is while true means a forever loop. So essentially, Python programmers use while true. So the statement, where should I write this? Let's see, up there. So basically, while true is like a forever loop. Basically, it runs forever and ever and ever and ever, right? It runs forever, and it just doesn't stop unless you like end the program or kill the terminal or whatever. It just keeps on going again and again for forever. But unless how do we stop it? We have to use the break statement. So let's go back. While true, so this will run forever. Okay, if this wasn't here, let's say we're gonna comment this, right? Oh, sorry. Yes. Let's say we're gonna comment this. So basically, forget about this. Just focus on this part. While true, prompt equals to input say hello. So it's gonna keep asking us forever, and it's never gonna stop. And don't do this, like, don't try this at home, because it's like, okay, anything we type in, and there's no way to stop this, but but if you are trying this and you want to stop it, just press Control C on a Windows and Control C on a Mac. Don't do Command C, but Control C on a Mac. So just do Control C and it'll stop it if it says keyboard interrupt. So don't ever, be very careful when you're doing while true, because it has to stop. So whenever you're making a while true loop, be careful, because it might go on forever if you have no way to stop it. But we do have a way to stop it. If we enter prompt, so for when it asks us to say, if our prompt is hello, when it asks us to say hello and we actually say hello, then it breaks. So that's what I wanted to go through. While true means like a forever loop. So while true. So in Python, it's always true. Okay, everything like in Python is true. So if we do while true, then that means that it will run. If we do while false, then it won't run. So if we do while false, just for the sake of showing you, sorry, I have caps lock on. Okay, so while false, it doesn't do anything, because while false means don't do it, and while true means do it forever. Do it, yeah, okay. But then so basically, to sum it all up, prompt equals to input say hello, and if we do put a hello, then it breaks. And breaking it, let's say the loop keeps on going again and again and again and again. But whenever we say hello, it breaks it. So it breaks the whole loop. So this loop won't run again. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. And now let's learn about the last part of this video. Continue. The continue statement can be a bit complicated, but it's quite useful sometimes, in my opinion. And it's pretty fun to learn about too. Start it in. Why does this happen? Shift tab, de-indent. Perfect. Now, since we didn't comment this, all of this is commented. So Python would ignore it, right? But this thing isn't commented. Count equals to 0. So this variable is still defined, because we're gonna use count. We're gonna use the count variable in this one. So basically, what this is, count is 0. Okay. So while count is less than 10, count is 0. Yes. Count is less than 10, because 0 is less than 10. Count plus equals to 1. So count is now 1. And is count 7? No. So then print count. Now, let's go again. Count is currently the variable count's value is 1. While count is less than 10, count plus equals to 1. So now count is 2. And it keeps on going until count is less than 10. Okay, right? It is. And count plus equals to 1. Let's say it becomes 7. Then, if count is 7, which it is, then continue. What does continue mean? Continue actually, it's similar to break, as it like breaks the loop, but it doesn't like, it only breaks one iteration of the loop. And what I mean by that is that an iteration is like the period of which, like, basically one unit, one loop. So this loop keeps on going again and again and again with many iterations. So what continue does, it breaks the iteration and goes back. So continue makes you go back to the beginning of the loop again. So if we put continue here, then this thing, Python is just going to ignore it. Because continue, what it does is it breaks the current iteration. So if count is equal to 7, then continue. And when Python sees continue, it goes back to the beginning of the loop. So let's try to guess how this thing will work. So it'll count plus equals to 1. Count is 0 first. It's initially 0. So now it's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But when it becomes 7, when count is 7, we put a continue here, right? So it's not going to print 7. It's going to ignore this part. Continue is going to go back to the loop, and so count will still increase to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when count is 7, we're telling Python to ignore whatever's below line 15 and go back to the beginning of the loop at line 12. And now count plus equals to 1 again, and it becomes 8. And I'm sorry if you're having a bit of confusion with some of the stuff like count plus equals to 1. What does plus equals to mean? Don't think I explained this to you guys before. But basically, let's go into the agenda because I don't want to type it here. So actually, plus equals to, so let's say count plus equals to 1 and count equals to count plus 1. It's the same thing. Count equals to count plus 1. So count plus equals to 1 basically means that we're increasing count. We're increasing the value of count by 1. If we do count plus equals to 2, then we're increasing the value of count by 2. And if we do count minus equals to 2, then we're decreasing the amount. So let's say count minus equals to 8, then that will decrease the value of count by 8. But right now, this is basically what we're doing. Basically, count equals to count plus 1. So we're increasing count by 1, but value of 1, adding 1 to it. So basically, yeah, and another thing is in Python, we have 2 equals. You may be wondering if you don't know this before. If you don't know this from before, if count equals to 7. Sorry, equals to, and there's a difference between equals to and equals to. And what the difference is that like when you have 1 equal sign, then that means you're defining a variable. So if we do this, then Python is going to give us an error. Yeah, see, it gives us an error called invalid syntax. So invalid syntax means we're not using it correctly. So double equals to is you're like asking if the value of count 7, and when you're using 1 equal sign, then you're not really asking, you're defining it. You're saying count is 0. And here you're doing, is count 7? So basically 1 equal sign is defining, like it's declaring a variable, and 2 equal signs, using 2 equal signs right next to each other means if you're asking if a variable's value is like some certain value, like 7. If you're asking if the value of count is 7. So yeah, if you just didn't know that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, while count is less than 7. So now let's run this and see how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. See, it skipped 7 because when it came to 7, if count equals to 7, then we asked it to continue or go back to the beginning of the loop. And Python never got to execute this statement, so it never printed 7. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you in this video. And yeah, while loops, break statements, and continue statements. To sum it all up in the big conclusion, while loops are loops that keep going as long as some expression is true, like count is less than. This loop will keep going. This loop will keep going when count is less than 10. When count is no longer less than 10, then the loop will break. And then the break statement ends the loop prematurely. So it just stops the whole loop. And then the continue statement makes you go back to the beginning of the loop and end the current iteration.